Dear friend, have you ever been to a music festival? I mean, really been there, in the thick of it, where the music isn't just something you hear but something you feel in your bones. I ask because that's where my story begins. It's a story about music, love, and the clash of two worlds. I guess I should start by telling you a bit about myself. I'm just an average guy living in a small town, working a steady job. But there's one thing that sets me apart. My love for music. It's my escape, my passion, my everything. I spend most of my weekends at music festivals, soaking up the sounds and the energy. It's my way of staying connected to something bigger than myself. So, there I was, at one of the biggest music festivals of the year. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the crowd. The air was electric with anticipation. I was standing there, beer in hand, when she took the stage. The drummer, a whirlwind of energy and passion. Her presence was magnetic, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. Her performance was electrifying. The way she moved, the way she played, it was as if she was channeling the music itself. I felt a connection, a spark, that I hadn't felt in a long time. It was as if she was playing just for me, speaking to me through her drums. As the final notes faded, I found myself wanting more. I wanted to know her, to understand the source of her passion. And so, with a mix of excitement and nervousness, I made my way backstage. Have you ever felt that rush of adrenaline when you meet someone who just clicks with you? That's exactly how I felt when I approached her backstage. The noise of the festival faded into the background as I introduced myself. She looked at me with those intense eyes, and I was lost for words for a moment. "Hey, you were amazing up there," I managed to say, trying to sound casual despite the storm of emotions inside me. She smiled, a warm, genuine smile that put me at ease. "Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm Alex, by the way." We started talking, and it was like we'd known each other for years. We talked about the performance, the festival, and of course music. She told me about her band, their tour, and how she ended up behind the drums. I shared my own stories of music festivals, the bands I'd seen, and the ones I loved. As we chatted, I noticed how her eyes lit up when she talked about music. It was the same passion I felt, the same love for the art that transcended words. We were two kindred spirits, drawn together by the universal language of music. Before I knew it, hours had passed. The festival was winding down, and the crowd was thinning out. But neither of us seemed to notice. We were too caught up in our conversation, too absorbed in each other's stories. "Hey, do you want to grab a drink?" she asked, breaking the spell. I nodded, feeling a thrill of excitement. We made our way to one of the festival bars, ordered a couple of beers, and found a quiet spot to sit. As we sipped our drinks, the conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about everything and nothing, from our favorite bands to our dreams and aspirations. I learned that she was a free spirit, always on the move, chasing the next gig, the next adventure. It was a lifestyle I admired but had never experienced myself. You know, my friend, there's something magical about those late-night conversations at music festivals. The world feels different, like anything is possible. As we sat there, drinks in hand, the festival lights casting a soft glow around us, I felt a connection with Alex that was both exhilarating and terrifying. We talked about our lives, our dreams, and our fears. She told me about her life on the road, the thrill of performing in front of new crowds every night, and the freedom of not being tied down to one place. It's like living in a constant state of now, she said, her eyes shining with excitement. Every day is an adventure. I listened, captivated by her stories and the passion in her voice. But as she spoke, I couldn't help but think about my own life, my stable job, my cozy apartment, the routine that I had grown comfortable with. It was a world away from hers, and for the first time I felt a pang of longing for something more. I guess I'm just a homebody at heart, I admitted, taking a sip of my beer. I love the stability, the predictability. But sometimes I wonder what it would be like to just pick up and go, you know? She nodded, understanding. It's not for everyone, she said. But for me, it's the only way to live. I need the music, the movement, the constant change. We fell into a comfortable silence, both lost in our thoughts. I realized then that our lives were worlds apart, and yet there was something between us that felt so right. It was a strange mix of familiarity and novelty, like discovering a new song that you instantly love. As the night wore on, the festival began to wind down. The crowds thinned, the music faded, and the lights dimmed. But neither of us made a move to leave. It was as if we were both savoring the moment, unwilling to let it end. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, she turned to me and said, "I guess we should call it a night." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. We exchanged numbers, promising to keep in touch, and then she was gone, disappearing into the early morning mist. I stood there for a moment, watching her go, feeling a strange sense of loss. But then I remembered her words, the promise of future adventures, and I felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. The morning after a festival is always a peculiar experience, isn't it? There's this odd mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, like you've been through something transformative but can't quite put your finger on it. As I made my way back to my hotel room, the sun rising over the festival grounds, I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had happened. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events of the night before. Alex's laughter, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about music, the electric connection we shared. It was all so vivid, so real, and yet it felt like a dream. I reached for my phone, half expecting a message from her, but there was nothing. I told myself it was silly to expect anything so soon, but the disappointment was palpable. I decided to distract myself by going for a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. As I wandered through the festival grounds, now eerily quiet after the previous night's chaos, I couldn't help but think about the contrast between our lives. Alex, with her nomadic lifestyle, always on the move, and me, with my stable job and predictable routine. It was a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. But then I remembered the way she looked at me, the genuine interest in her eyes, and I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe it wasn't about bridging the gap, but about finding a way to meet in the middle. I decided to text her. Just a simple message to say I had a great time and hope to see her again. To my surprise, she replied almost immediately. "I had a blast too. Let's do it again soon." My heart skipped a beat. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. We spent the next few hours texting back and forth, making plans for the next time we could meet. As the day wore on, I found myself counting down the days until our next encounter. I realized that this was something new, something exciting, and I was eager to see where it would lead. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of anticipation and excitement. Alex and I kept in touch constantly, texting and calling whenever we could. It was like we were making up for lost time, trying to fit a lifetime of conversations into a few short weeks. We talked about everything and nothing, sharing stories from our past and dreams for the future. I learned more about her life on the road, the challenges of being a musician, and the thrill of performing in front of new crowds every night. She, in turn, was fascinated by my life, my job, and the stability that came with it. Despite the distance, we found ways to bridge the gap. We sent each other care packages, filled with little mementos and inside jokes. I sent her a mixtape of my favorite songs, and she sent me a drumstick she had used in a performance. It was these small gestures that made the distance feel less daunting. We also made plans to see each other again. Alex had a gig coming up in a city halfway between us, and we decided to meet there. The thought of seeing her again filled me with a mix of excitement and nervousness. I wanted everything to be perfect, to show her how much she meant to me. As the day of our meeting approached, I found myself counting down the hours. I spent the days leading up to it preparing, making sure everything was just right. I booked a cozy Airbnb, researched the best places to eat, and even picked out a playlist for our drive. Finally, the day arrived. I drove to the city, my heart racing with anticipation. As I pulled up to the venue, I saw her standing eyed, her eyes scanning the crowd. When she spotted me, her face broke into a wide smile, and I felt a surge of joy. We embraced, and it was like no time had passed at all. We spent the weekend exploring the city, attending her gig, and just enjoying each other's company. It was a perfect weekend, filled with laughter, music, and the promise of more to come. That weekend in the city was like a dream. You know those moments in life that feel too good to be true? This was one of them. Walking hand in hand with Alex through the bustling streets, listening to her stories and sharing in her laughter, it was as if the world around us faded away, leaving just the two of us in our own little bubble. Her gig was incredible. Watching her on stage, I was reminded of the first time I saw her play. The same energy, the same passion, but this time it felt different. This time I wasn't just a spectator. I was part of her world. And when she looked out into the crowd and our eyes met, it felt like a secret shared between us. After the show, we went to a small, dimly lit bar to celebrate. We talked about the performance, the crowd, and the future. She told me about her upcoming tour dates and the places she would be visiting. I listened, trying to ignore the pang of longing that came with the thought of her being so far away again. But then she turned to me and said, "You know, I've been thinking, maybe you could come with me on the road for a bit, just for a few weeks. It could be an adventure." My heart skipped a beat. The idea was thrilling and terrifying. The thought of leaving my job, my routine, and stepping into her world was daunting, but also incredibly tempting. "I don't know," I replied, trying to sound casual. "It sounds amazing, but I have responsibilities, you know. My job, my apartment." She nodded, understanding. "I get it," she said. "But just think about it. It could be fun." We left the bar and walked back to our Airbnb. the night air cool and crisp. As we lay in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about her offer. The idea of traveling with her, of seeing the world through her eyes, was intoxicating. But the practical side of me couldn't ignore the reality of my life. I fell asleep that night with dreams of adventure and the nagging feeling that I was standing at a crossroads. Little did I know, this would be the beginning of a series of choices that would test the limits of our relationship. Waking up the next morning, the weight of the previous night's conversation still lingered. Alex was already up, sitting by the window with a cup of coffee, her gaze lost in the cityscape outside. I watched her for a moment, admiring the way the morning light played on her features, before joining her. "Morning," I said, sitting down beside her. She turned to me with a smile, but I could see the hint of concern in her eyes. "Hey," she replied. "Did you sleep okay?" I nodded, though in truth, my mind had been racing all night. We sat in silence for a while, sipping our coffee and watching the world go by. It was a comfortable silence, but the elephant in the room was hard to ignore. Finally, I broke the silence. "I've been thinking about what you said," I began, choosing my words carefully. "About coming on the road with you." She turned to face me, her expression hopeful. "And?" she prompted. I took a deep breath. "It sounds amazing, it really does. But I have to be honest, I'm scared. Scared of leaving my life behind. Scared of the unknown." She nodded, understanding. "I get it," she said. "It's a big step, but I also think it could be an incredible experience. We could see the world together, make music, and just live." Her words painted a picture that was both beautiful and terrifying. I sighed, feeling torn. "I want to," I admitted, "but I also can't just drop everything. I have responsibilities, commitments." She reached out and took my hand, her touch reassuring. "I know," she said, "and I don't want you to do anything you're not comfortable with. But just promise me you'll think about it." I promised her I would, and we spent the rest of the morning discussing the possibilities. We talked about the places we could visit, the experiences we could share, and the challenges we might face. It was a conversation filled with hope and uncertainty, a glimpse into a future that was both exciting and uncertain. As we packed our bags and prepared to leave, I felt a sense of longing. Our time together to end, but I also knew that reality was waiting for us back home. We said our goodbyes, promising to keep in touch and to see each other again soon. Driving back home, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The idea of joining Alex on the road was tempting, but the practical side of me couldn't ignore the reality of my life. I knew I had a decision to make, and it wasn't going to be easy. The days turned into weeks, and the weight of the decision I had to make grew heavier with each passing day. Alex and I continued to talk, our conversations filled with the same mix of excitement and uncertainty that had marked our time together in the city. She would tell me about her gigs, the places she was visiting, and the adventures she was having. I listened, feeling both a sense of longing and a pang of guilt for not being there with her. I tried to imagine what it would be like to leave my life behind and join her on the road. I pictured myself in new cities, experiencing different cultures, and living a life filled with music and adventure. It was a thrilling image, but it was also daunting. I had a good job, a comfortable apartment, and a life that, while not perfect, was stable and secure. My friends and family noticed the change in me. They could see the internal struggle I was going through and offered their advice and support. Some encouraged me to take the leap, to embrace the adventure and see where it led. Others cautioned me against giving up the life I had built, warning me of the potential risks and uncertainties. One evening, as I sat on my couch, staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzed with a message from Alex. "Hey, I know you're going through a lot right now. Just want you to know I'm here for you, no matter what you decide." Her words brought a smile to my face and a warmth to my heart. It was comforting to know that she understood and respected my struggle. I decided to make a list of pros and cons, hoping it would help clarify my thoughts. On one side, I listed the excitement of travel, the opportunity to experience new things, and the chance to be with Alex. On the other side, I listed the stability of my current life, the security of my job, and the fear of the unknown. As I looked at the list, I realized that both sides had their merits, but ultimately, it came down to what I truly wanted. Did I want to play it safe and continue with my life as it was? Or did I want to take a risk and embrace the unknown? I thought about Alex, about the connection we shared, and the way she made me feel. I thought about the adventures we could have, the memories we could make, and the life we could build together. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. Making the decision to leave my life behind and join Alex on the road was both terrifying and liberating. It was as if I had been standing on the edge of a cliff, and after weeks of indecision, I finally took the leap. The moment I made the choice, a weight lifted off my shoulders, replaced by a sense of excitement and anticipation. I called Alex to tell her the news. She picked up on the second ring, her voice filled with hope. "Hey, what's up?" she asked. I took a deep breath and said, "I'm in. I'm coming with you." There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then she let out a whoop of joy that made me laugh out loud. "Oh my God, really? You're serious?" she exclaimed, her excitement palpable. "Yes, I'm serious," I replied, feeling a grin spread across my face. I can't wait to see where this adventure takes us. We spent the next hour on the phone, making plans and talking about the places we would visit and the things we would do. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I gave notice at my job, sublet my apartment, and started packing my bags. It was a daunting task, trying to fit my life into a few suitcases, but it also felt liberating. I was shedding the weight of my old life, ready to embrace the new. My friends and family were supportive, though some were understandably concerned. They wished me well and made me promise to stay in touch. I reassured them that I would, and that I would be back to visit often. As the day of my departure approached, I felt a mix of emotions. There was excitement, of course, but also a sense of apprehension. I was leaving behind everything that was familiar and comfortable, stepping into the unknown. But then, I would think about Alex, about the adventures we would have, and the fear would be replaced by a sense of exhilaration. Finally, the day arrived. I said my goodbyes, took one last look at my apartment, and headed to the airport. As I boarded the plane, I felt a thrill of excitement. I was on my way to meet Alex, to start a new chapter in my life. The flight was long, but I barely noticed. My mind was racing with thoughts and dreams of what was to come. When I finally landed and saw Alex waiting for me at the airport, her face breaking into a wide smile. I felt a surge of joy. We embraced, and it felt like coming home. As we made our way to the car, she turned to me and said, "Welcome to the adventure of a lifetime." I smiled, feeling a sense of peace and anticipation. I was ready for whatever came next, ready to embrace the unknown with her by my side. The first few weeks on the road were a blur of excitement and discovery. Every day felt like a new chapter in a book I couldn't put down. Alex and I traveled from city to city, each one offering its own unique charm and experiences. We visited bustling metropolises, quaint small towns, and everything in between. Each place had its own story, its own rhythm, and we were there to soak it all in. The life of a traveling musician is both exhilarating and exhausting. Alex's schedule was packed with gigs, rehearsals, and travel. I quickly learned to adapt to the constant movement, the late nights, and the early mornings. It was a far cry from the routine of my old life, but I found it invigorating. There was a sense of freedom in not knowing what each day would bring, in waking up in a new place and having the world at our fingertips. We spent our days exploring the cities we visited, discovering hidden gems and local favorites. We would wander through museums, stroll through parks, and sample the local cuisine. In the evenings, I would watch Alex perform, mesmerized by her talent and the energy she brought to the stage. It was a privilege to be part of her world, to see her in her element and share in her passion for music. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The constant travel took its toll, and there were moments of frustration and fatigue. We argued over little things, the stress of the road getting the better of us. But we always managed to work through it, to find our way back to each other. We learned to communicate better, to be patient and understanding. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, we found ourselves in a small, cozy bar. The kind of place where the music is soft, the lighting is dim, and the drinks are strong. We sat in a corner booth, nursing our drinks and enjoying the relative quiet. "You know," Alex said, breaking the silence, "I never thought I'd be able to do this with someone. Travel, perform, live life on the road. But who you hear makes it better. It makes it complete." Her words touched me, and I felt a warmth spread through my chest. "I'm glad I'm here," I replied, taking her hand in mine. "I can't imagine being anywhere else." We sat there for a while, content in each other's company, the stresses of the day forgotten. It was moments like these that reminded me why I had made the decision to join her. The road was tough, but it was worth it. We were creating memories, building a life together, and discovering new parts of ourselves in the process. As the weeks turned into months, the initial excitement of life on the road began to settle into a more comfortable rhythm. Alex and I had found our groove, a balance between her demanding schedule and our need for downtime. We learned to appreciate the small moments, the quiet mornings in unfamiliar cities, and the late-night conversations in dimly lit bars. One of the things I cherished most was the time we spent exploring new places together. Each city had its own personality, its own story, and we were eager to uncover it all. We would spend hours wandering through neighborhoods, getting lost in the maze of streets, and discovering hidden gems that weren't listed in any guidebook. In one city, we stumbled upon a tiny family-run cafe tucked away in a quiet corner. The owner, an elderly woman with a warm smile, greeted us like long-lost friends. We spent the afternoon there, sipping coffee and sampling her homemade pastries, listening to her stories of the city and its history. It was a moment of connection, a reminder that despite the constant movement, there were still places and people that could feel like home. Another time, we found ourselves in a bustling market, the air filled with the scent of spices and the sound of haggling. We wandered through the stalls, sampling exotic fruits and handmade crafts, soaking in the vibrant atmosphere. It was a sensory overload, but in the best possible way. We left with bags full of treasures and hearts full of memories. But it wasn't just the places we visited that made the journey special. It was the people we met along the way. From fellow travelers to local musicians, each person we encountered added a new dimension to our adventure. We shared stories, exchanged tips, and sometimes just sat in comfortable silence, knowing that we were all part of the same journey. One evening, after a particularly memorable gig, we found ourselves at a local music festival. The atmosphere was electric, the air filled with the sound of drums and laughter. We danced with strangers, sang along to songs we didn't know, and celebrated the universal language of music. It was a night of pure joy, a reminder of why we had chosen this life. As the night wore on, we found a quiet spot to sit and watch the stars. "You know," Alex said, her voice filled with wonder, "I never thought I'd find someone who could share this life with me. But here you are, and it's better than I ever imagined." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "I feel the same way," I replied. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. The road has a way of teaching you things about yourself that you never knew." As the months rolled on, I found myself changing in ways I hadn't anticipated. The constant movement, the exposure to new cultures and experiences, it was like a crash course in adaptability and resilience. I learned to go with the flow, to embrace the unexpected, and to find joy in the little things. One of the biggest lessons I learned was the importance of flexibility. Life on the road is unpredictable, and plans can change in an instant. A gig might get canceled, a flight might be delayed, or a sudden storm might force us to change our route. At first, these disruptions were frustrating, but over time, I learned to see them as opportunities for adventure. In one instance, a last-minute change in Alex's schedule meant we had an unexpected free day in a city we hadn't planned to visit. We decided to make the most of it, renting bikes and exploring the city like locals. We stumbled upon a street fair, complete with food stalls, live music, and artisans selling their crafts. It was a serendipitous discovery, a reminder that sometimes the best experiences are the ones you don't plan for. Another lesson I learned was the value of simplicity. When you're constantly on the move, you learn to live with less. The things that once seemed important material possessions, the latest gadgets began to lose their appeal. Instead, I found joy in the simple pleasures. A good cup of coffee, a beautiful sunset, a shared laugh with Alex. But perhaps the most important lesson was the power of connection. Despite the transient nature of our lifestyle, we formed deep and meaningful connections with the people we met. Whether it was a fellow traveler, a local musician, or a friendly barista, each person we encountered added a new layer to our journey. We learned to value these connections, to cherish the moments we shared, and to carry them with us as we moved on. One evening, as we sat on the roof of a hostel, watching the sun set over a new city. Alex turned to me and said, "I used to think that being on the road meant being alone, but being with you, it's like I'm home wherever we go." Her words resonated with me, and I realized that she was right. Home wasn't a place. It was the people you shared your life with. As much as I loved the adventure and the freedom of life on the road, there were moments when the reality of our lifestyle hit hard. The constant travel, while exhilarating, was also exhausting. The lack of routine, the ever-changing environments, and the pressure of being constantly on took their toll. I found myself longing for the stability and familiarity of my old life, even if just for a moment. One evening, after a particularly grueling week of travel and performances, I broke down. We were in yet another hotel room, the outside unfamiliar and unwelcoming. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling overwhelmed and homesick. Alex noticed immediately and sat down beside me, her presence a comforting anchor. "Hey," she said softly. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath, trying to put my feelings into words. "I don't know," I admitted. "I guess I'm just tired. Tired of the constant movement, the lack of stability. I miss having a place to call home." She listened, her expression understanding. "I get it," she said. "The road can be tough, but remember, we're in this together, and we'll find a way to make it work." Her words were reassuring, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. We talked for hours, discussing our feelings and the challenges we were facing. It was a difficult conversation, but also a necessary one. We acknowledged the difficulties of our lifestyle, but also reaffirmed the reasons we had chosen it. We talked about the experiences we had shared, the memories we had made, and the love that had grown between us. In the end, we decided to make some changes. We agreed to take breaks when needed, to find moments of stability amidst the chaos. We also decided to start looking for a place to call our own, a home base where we could return between tours and travels. It was a compromise, a way to balance the freedom of the road with the need for stability. The conversation was a turning point, a reminder that our relationship was strong enough to weather the storms. We emerged from it with a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to making our unique lifestyle work. With our newfound resolve, Alex and I set out to find a balance between the thrill of the road and the comfort of a home. It wasn't easy, but we were determined to make it work. We started by setting aside time for ourselves, moments of stillness amidst the chaos of travel. Whether it was a quiet morning in a cafe or a peaceful walk through a park, we cherished these moments of calm. We also began to explore the idea of a home base, a place where we could return between tours and travels. It was a daunting task, trying to find a location that felt right for both of us. We spent weekends visiting potential cities, exploring neighborhoods, and imagining what it would be like to live there. In one city, we stumbled upon a charming little house with a garden and a view of the mountains. It was the kind of place that felt like it had been plucked from a storybook. We walked through the rooms, imagining what it would be like to call this place home. It was a tempting vision, but we weren't quite ready to settle down. Instead, we decided to rent a small apartment in a city that was central to Alex's touring schedule. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. We furnished it with a mix of thrift store finds and sentimental items, creating a space that felt like ours. It was a place where we could rest, recharge, and reconnect between adventures. Having a home base changed everything. It gave us a sense of stability, a return to when the road became too much. We found that we appreciated our time on the road even more, knowing that we had a home to come back to. And when we were home, we cherished the simple pleasures, cooking meals together, hosting friends, and enjoying the quiet moments. But the road still called to us, and we continued to travel, albeit with a new perspective. We learned to balance our adventures with the need for rest, to find joy in both the journey and the destination. It was a delicate balance, but one that we were determined to maintain. Life settled into a rhythm that felt both new and familiar. The apartment became our sanctuary, a place where we could unwind and reconnect. We decorated it with mementos from our travels postcards, photographs, and trinkets that reminded us of the adventures we had shared. Each item had a story, a memory attached to it, and they filled the space with warmth and nostalgia. When we were home, we embraced the routine of everyday life. We cooked meals together, experimented with new recipes, and enjoyed the simple pleasure of sharing a meal. We hosted friends for dinner parties, filling the apartment with laughter and music. It was a different kind of adventure, one that was just as fulfilling as our travels. But the road still called to us, and we continued to tour with Alex's band. We traveled to new cities, met new people, and experienced new cultures. Each trip was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to create new memories. We learned to appreciate the contrast between our time on the road and our time at home, finding joy in both. One of the highlights of our travels was a trip to a small coastal town. We arrived just as the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the water. We spent the evening walking along the beach, the sound of the waves a soothing backdrop to our conversation. It was a moment of pure peace, a reminder of the beauty that could be found in the world. As we sat on the sand, watching the stars emerge in the night sky, Alex turned to me and said, "You know, I never thought I could have both the road and a home, but with you, it feels possible." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "I feel the same way," I replied. "We've created something special, something that's uniquely ours." It was true. We had built a life that was a blend of adventure and stability, of travel and home. It wasn't always easy, but it was ours, and we cherished it. We had found a way to balance our passions and our needs, to create a life that was both fulfilling and sustainable. As the years passed, our life continued to evolve, shaped by the experiences we shared and the choices we made. The balance between the road and home became second nature, a rhythm that we had grown accustomed to. We had our routines, our traditions, and our little quirks that made our life together unique. One of the things I loved most was the way we continued to grow together. Each trip, each new experience, added a new layer to our relationship. We learned from each other, challenged each other, and supported each other through the ups and downs of life. It was a partnership in the truest sense, built on trust, respect, and a shared love for adventure. We also found joy in the simple things. The quiet mornings spent reading the paper over coffee, the evenings spent cooking together in the kitchen, the weekends spent exploring our own city as if it were new. These moments of everyday life were just as precious as the grand adventures, a reminder that happiness could be found in the ordinary. But the road still held a special place in our hearts. We continued to travel, albeit less frequently, but with the same sense of wonder and curiosity. Each trip was an opportunity to reconnect with the world and with each other. We visited places we had never been, tried new things, and met fascinating people. It was a reminder of why we had chosen this life, of the passion that had brought us together. One of our most memorable trips was to a remote village in the mountains. We arrived by train, the journey itself an adventure, and were greeted by the warm hospitality of the locals. We spent our days hiking through the stunning landscape, our evenings gathered around the fire, listening to stories and sharing laughter. It was a glimpse into a different way of life, a reminder of the diversity and beauty of the world. As we sat by the fire, the stars shining brightly above us, Alex turned to me and said, "You know, I never thought I could have it all, but with you, I feel like I do." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "I feel the same way," I replied. "We've created something beautiful together. Looking back, it's amazing to see how far we've come. The life we have now is a testament to the choices we've made and the love that has guided us. We've built a life that is a blend of our passions and our needs, a life that is both fulfilling and sustainable. The road taught us many things: the importance of flexibility, the value of simplicity, and the power of connection. It taught us to embrace the unknown, to find joy in the journey, and to cherish the moments we share. But perhaps the most important lesson was the realization that home isn't a place. It's the people you share your life with. Our home base, the little apartment we've filled with memories, is a reflection of that understanding. It's a place where we can rest, recharge, and reconnect. It's a place where we can be ourselves, where we can laugh, love, and simply be. And when we're on the road, we carry that sense of home with us, knowing that we have a place to return to. We've also learned the importance of balance. The road will always call to us, and we will always answer. But we've also learned to listen to our needs, to take breaks when necessary, and to find moments of stillness amidst the chaos. It's a delicate balance, but one that we've mastered over the years. As I sit here now, reflecting on our journey, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the experiences we've shared, the memories we've made, and the love that has grown between us. We've created a life that is uniquely ours, a life that is filled with adventure, joy, and a shared sense of purpose. And so, dear friend, if you ever find yourself at a crossroads, wondering which path to take, remember this: life is an adventure, and the best journeys are the ones we share with those we love. Embrace the unknown, cherish the moments, and trust that the road will lead you to where you're meant to be. As I close this chapter of our story, I can't help but feel a sense of fulfillment and peace. The journey we've taken together, the life we've built, it's more than I ever could have imagined. We've faced challenges, made sacrifices, and celebrated countless triumphs. Through it all, we've grown not just as individuals, but as partners in this grand adventure called life. The road has been our teacher, our muse, and our sanctuary. It's shown us the beauty of the world and the depth of our connection. We've learned to adapt, to evolve, and to find joy in the ever-changing landscape of our lives. And through it all, we've discovered that the true essence of home isn't a place, it's the love and companionship we share. Our story is far from over. There are still places to see, music to play, and memories to create. But whatever the future holds, I know that we'll face it together, with open hearts and a spirit of adventure. We've built a life that is resilient, a life that is rich with meaning and love. So, dear friend, as you drift off to sleep, I hope our story brings you a sense of peace and inspiration. Remember that life is a journey, and the best journeys are the ones we share with those we love. Embrace the unknown, cherish the moments, and trust that the road will lead you to where you're meant to be. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Sweet dreams, and may your own adventures be as fulfilling and joyful as ours have been.